We're also defending the legacy of our parents and grandparents who conveyed to us the greatest society on the face of the earth. And here we have this government in the hands of malcontents who are menacing us and tormenting us. Individuals who reject what our parents and grandparents created. Individuals who reject the whole foundation of Americanism. Individuals who want to, well, rewrite the Constitution and recreate our society. These are temporary politicians who are doing enormous damage, and we can only hope it won't be permanent. And you can always know when a radical leftist is in trouble. When a radical leftist who has some power and has done radical leftist things which are destructive of everybody, regardless of your income, regardless of your race and your religion, that they resort to certain tactics. Race baiting, scaremongering, and class warfare. Class warfare is a Marxist tactic. Let me repeat that. Class warfare is a Marxist tactic. Class warfare is not something you would have ever heard the Founding Fathers talk about, or Americans generally, for that matter. It is something that is promoted by the radical left to agitate you, to divert you, to make you think you're a victim, to make you think that you need them on the left and big government to come to your rescue because you're a victim or you perceive that you're a victim. And so you don't succeed. You become a loser and reliant on them, like some of the drones who call this program. One of the phrases they use to attack the free market capitalist system. By the way, technically the word capitalist was invented by Marx, but we use it in a positive sense here. Is trickle-down economics. Well, the very, very wealthy get, and then the argument is that it trickles down to the little guy. That's Marxism. The bourgeois versus the proletariat. But that's not how it works in America. The way it works in America is you get off your ass and you make something of yourself. And the only thing that really stands in your way, there's really two things. You and the government. It was easier to make a buck 20 years ago. It was easier to invest in something 20 years ago. But this unregulated society that they keep talking about has created all this red tape, Rube Goldberg-like rules, where if you want to become a cab driver, it's a nightmare. If you want to run a hot dog stand, it's a nightmare. Anything you want to do, you got to go through all kinds of levels of bureaucracy and government to accomplish it. And yet, the people who create these obstacles to economic liberation, to wealth creation, claim to look out for you. Claim that it's the rich in your way. Well, you know what? If that guy can't get his hot dog stand, it has nothing to do with some billionaire in the state of Washington. If somebody can't make a restaurant work because of all the taxes and regulations, it has nothing to do with a rich person. And on down the line. It's not the rich who obstruct. And by the way, we don't even know what that means anymore, the word rich. Because that's a moving target too. Used to be billionaires, then multimillionaires, then millionaires. Now it's a small businessman who grosses $200,000 a year. Maybe he nets 50. I don't know. Maybe he nets 15. But he's a millionaire now. So for most of us, what exactly stands in the way of our accomplishment? First of all, our own motivation. And secondly, government. The government You try starting a small business. You try expanding a small business. Everywhere you turn, permits, environmental impact statements. You got to see if you can afford to hire a person with all the federal and state and local rules. You ever try and get a license to drive a cab in New York City? Well, most of you haven't. It's a nightmare. The government stands in the way. Not some rich guy who doesn't give a damn. See, nobody's taking anything from you. But there are forces in this country who are preventing you from achieving what you want to achieve. Some guy down the street drives a Rolls Royce, makes $10 million a year, has a 25,000 square foot home, 2 swimming pools, whatever. That has no effect on you whatsoever. By the way, any more than the poor person who lives under a tree has any effect on you. They're leading their lives. They're doing whatever they do. It's of no consequence to you. But when the government tells you whether you can go into business or not, whether you can earn a living or not, how you're going to do it, that is of consequence to you. Now, I'm telling you all this to provide a foundation for our economically illiterate, ideologically Marxist president, where he's making an ass of himself again at the AFL-CIO Labor Fest. Now, what's a Labor Fest? The hell is that? A Labor Fest? Anyway, Mr. Producer, cut 4. This is from yesterday in Wisconsin. Go.
Now, anybody who thinks that we can move this economy forward with just a few folks at the top doing well, hoping that it's going to trickle down.
All right, stop. Did he just say hoping? Let's rewind, shall we? And our very articulate president, I assure you, if this were George Bush, people would be making lots of fun of this. But I have an ear for illiteracy. Cut 4 again, go.
Now, anybody who thinks that we can move this economy forward with just a few folks at the top doing well, hoping that it's going to trickle down.
Yep, hoping.
To working
All right,
people.
That's enough. Slow it down. Rewind it, please. That's right, hoping. We're all hoping out there. Anyway, that's not the focus of my point. That was just annoying. Cut 4, go.
Now, anybody who thinks that we can move this economy forward with just a few folks at the top doing well, hoping that it's going to trickle down to working people who are running faster and faster just to keep up, you'll never see it.
All right, stop. Working people are running faster and faster to keep up. Not because of some rich guy who they don't even know, but because the government's actively destroying the private sector. Because the government is stealing money out of the private sector to fund its insatiable appetite. The reason people are running harder and faster in place, just to stay in place, just to keep up, is because their government is punishing wealth creation and profits and making it impossible for the private sector to be successful in the aggregate. It's running up deficits, never before contemplated by our politicians. That's why people are running in place. The government manipulated and destroyed the housing market through redistribution of wealth imposed on banks and mortgage companies. And the only two which have been left largely alone are the two government-run entities, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Mark, they're quasi-private. Don't give me that crap. I know exactly what they are. Everything this government touches turns to crap. This president is what I've said he is from the beginning, a one-man wrecking ball. Trickle down, the rich. The hell does he think we are? A bunch of moronic peasants? Yeah, go get the rich. Go grab your pitchfork. We know what the problem is. We know who's in charge. We know who's screwing with the private sector and screwing with our lives and undermining our children's future. It's not some rich guy with a Rolls Royce down the street or across the tracks. It's you, you jerk. It's you, Mr. Presidente. You're doing it. Doesn't matter what the other guy has. Whether he has nothing or everything, it does not interfere with your possibilities. When you can't get a permit, when you can't get a license, when you cannot afford to do what you want to do, because the government's stealing from you, regulating you, obstructing you, that's the problem. And then when you finally make it, you put everything on the line. You've got stress at home. You finally make it. Despite all the obstacles put in front of you by your government, local, state, and federal, then they attack you. You earn too much. You don't spend enough on this. You haven't greased this guy's palm. You haven't done this. You haven't done that. Always with their hand in your pocket, like the mob. They didn't help you get where you are. They tried to stop you from getting where you are. Then you make it, and they want to steal it from you. John in New Jersey, WABC, go.
Hello, Mark. You mentioned just trying to start a cab business. I just started one 2 weeks ago. This process has taken me 8 weeks. 8 weeks ago, I started the process. First thing I had to do was go to a municipality, decide which one I wanted to be licensed in. Then you have to go through a state police background check. I checked into it a week into it to see how my application was going. The application was still on the clerk's desk. But the biggest insult of all, before I could even file that application, I had to have a car registered as a taxi cab. Otherwise, you could not apply for a business license in that town. In order for me to have a car registered with that town, I had to go out and get insurance on a car as a taxi cab before I could even drive it. So that took me 4 weeks before the application was even done in Hazlitt, and I had a car insured as a cab just for 4 weeks. Then I had to deal with a state investigator from the Department of Motor Vehicles. He was a load of fun. To start with, my own township said I could not register my business at my house because I live in a residential area.
You don't need to go on and on because we understand. We understand. It's depressing. So let me ask you something, John. Was there some rich guy who stopped you from starting a cab business?
No, it's the government. It was the government the whole way. The state actually sent a state investigator out to a place where I had to come up with a commercial property lease just to get a corporate...
Well, you should have told them you're an illegal alien. Then they all would have run away.
They would have been like, oh, there's nothing we can do. Just go about your business. But
that's right. That's right. They'd say, do what you want. We don't want any trouble. All right, John, I'm sorry. Thank you for your call. Let me tell you, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of examples like that. I'm not talking about all cabbies or guys wanting to start. I'm talking about everything. Let's even talk about home ownership. Let's say you're not making what you made last year. Things are really, really tight. But in comes that property tax bill from your county or your township or your city or whatever. That gets paid first. Not the food on your table for your family, not the clothing on their back. And if you don't pay it, you lose your home. Did the rich guy down the street do that? No.
Mark Levin.